I woke up in my best friend's body, and she's engaged to my ex. The first thing I noticed when I opened my eyes that morning was that the ceiling was wrong. Instead of the slightly water-stained off-white of my apartment, I was staring at a perfectly smooth surface with a delicate crystal chandelier hanging from the center. "What the?" I mumbled, my voice sounding strange in my ears, higher, softer, not mine at all. I bolted upright, heart racing, and immediately knew something was terribly wrong. This wasn't my bed with its perpetually rumpled navy sheets. This was a massive four-poster with crisp white linens and decorative pillows I would never own because they serve absolutely no purpose except to be thrown on the floor at night. I looked down at my hands, slender, with perfectly manicured nails painted a soft pink. My hands were never that well maintained. I worked as a barista at a busy cafe downtown, and nail polish didn't survive more than a day in my line of work. "Oh no, no, no," I whispered, reaching up to touch my face, then grabbing a lock of hair. Long, silky blonde instead of my shoulder-length brown waves. I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the full-length mirror on the opposite wall. The reflection that stared back at me wasn't mine. It was Mika. My best friend since college, Mika Tanaka, was looking back at me with the same wide-eyed panic I was feeling. "This isn't happening," I said in Mika's voice. "This can't be happening." But it was. Somehow. Impossibly. I had woken up in my best friend's body. I grabbed Mika's phone from the nightstand, fumbling with the unfamiliar device. I needed to call me? Was Mika in my body? The thought was so bizarre I almost laughed hysterically. Before I could figure out how to unlock her phone, it started ringing in my hand, displaying a photo of myself, my real self. I answered immediately. "Mika?" I whispered. "Emmy?" My own voice came through the speaker, sounding terrified. "Emmy, what's happening? Why am I in your apartment? Why do I look like you?" "I don't know," I said, trying to keep my voice down, though I was pretty sure I was alone in Mika's luxurious apartment. "I just woke up like this. I'm you, and you're me, and this is insane." "We need to meet," Mika said in my voice. "Right now. This has to be a dream or something, right? Like, maybe if we see each other in person, we'll wake up." "Maybe," I agreed, though I had a sinking feeling this was far too vivid to be a dream. "Your place or mine?" "Yours," she said immediately. "I don't want to run into—" She stopped abruptly. "Run into who?" I asked. There was a pause before Mika answered. "Emmy, there's something I need to tell you. It's about Kai." My heart skipped a beat at the mention of his name. Kai Nakamura, my ex-boyfriend of 2 years. We'd broken up 8 months ago when he'd gotten a job offer in another city. Long distance, he'd said. Never works out. Better to make a clean break. I'd been devastated, especially since I'd secretly been hoping he was going to propose, not dump me. "What about Kai?" I asked, trying to sound casual and failing miserably. "He's back in town," Mika said softly. "And he's been staying here. With me." The room seemed to tilt around me. "What do you mean, staying with you?" Another pause. "Emmy, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you, but I never found the right moment. Kai and we're engaged." The phone nearly slipped from my suddenly numb fingers. "Engaged?" I repeated, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "You and Kai are engaged?" "Yes," she confirmed, her voice small. "The wedding is in 3 weeks." 3 weeks, I echoed, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. My best friend was marrying my ex-boyfriend in 3 weeks, and she'd never even told me they were dating. "I'm so sorry," Mika was saying. "I know this is a shock. We were going to tell you together this weekend. I've been trying to find the right time, but—" "How long?" I interrupted, surprised at how calm I sounded when inside I felt like I was shattering. "How long have you been together?" Mika hesitated again. 6 months. 6 months. They'd gotten together just 2 months after Kai and I broke up. While I was still crying myself to sleep some nights, they were falling in love. "Emmy, are you there?" Mika's voice, my voice, pulled me back to the present disaster. "Yeah," I said, swallowing hard. "I'm here, in your body, apparently, which means you're going to see Kai before I can explain everything properly," Mika finished for me. "He's not here right now. He had an early meeting, but he'll be back tonight. We have dinner reservations at Sakura at 7. Sakura, the restaurant where Kai had taken me for our first anniversary. The restaurant I hadn't been able to walk past since our breakup without feeling that familiar ache in my chest. "I can't do this," I said, panic rising. "I can't pretend to be you with Kai. He'll know something's wrong immediately." "He won't," Mika insisted. "Just act normal. You know me better than anyone, and I'll pretend to be you. We'll figure this out, I promise. Just Don't tell him anything about this body-switching thing. He'll think we're crazy. This is insane, I muttered. I know, but we'll fix it, Mika said, though she sounded far from certain. Just meet me at your cafe in an hour, okay? We'll figure out what to do. After hanging up, I stared at Mika's reflection in the mirror, trying to process everything. Not only had I somehow swapped bodies with my best friend, but I'd just discovered that she was engaged to the man I'd once thought I would marry. The man I wasn't entirely over, if I was being honest with myself. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, one problem at a time. First, I needed to get dressed and meet Mika. Then we'd figure out how to switch back. And then, well, I'd deal with the engagement bomb later. Mika's closet was like something out of a magazine, organized by color and season, with racks of designer clothes that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. It made sense. She was a successful event planner for Tokyo's elite, always dressed impeccably for her high-profile clients. I settled on the most casual outfit I could find, a simple white blouse and jeans that probably cost more than my monthly rent. After a quick shower, trying very hard not to think about the fact that I was washing my best friend's body, I was ready to head out. As I reached for Mika's purse, something caught my eye, a framed photo on her dresser that I'd never seen before. It showed Mika and Kai at what looked like a party, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. They looked happy, really happy. A knot formed in my throat. All those times Mika had listened to me talk about how much I missed Kai, offering comfort and assuring me I'd find someone better. She'd been dating him herself. With a shaking hand, I turned the picture face down and left the apartment. The cafe where I worked, Moonbeams, was only a 15-minute walk from Mika's upscale apartment building. As I approached, I spotted a familiar figure waiting outside. It was surreal seeing myself from the outside. My average height, brown wavy hair, the slightly nervous way I shifted my weight from one foot to the other. "This is so weird," I said as I reached Mika in my body. She nodded, my eyes, wide. I almost screamed when I woke up. How did this happen? "I have no idea," I replied, glancing around. "Let's not talk about it out here. People are staring." We slipped inside the cafe, and I immediately felt a pang of nostalgia at the familiar scent of coffee and pastries. My coworker, Yui, was behind the counter and gave a confused wave when she saw me. "Morning, Mika," she called out. "Didn't expect to see you today. Emmy, you're not on the schedule until this afternoon." It took me a second to realize she was addressing me as Mika and Mika as me. Right, because that's who we looked like. "Just stopping in for coffee," Mika replied smoothly. She was always better at thinking on her feet than I was. We found a quiet table in the corner, as far from other customers as possible. "Okay," I whispered once we were seated. "What the hell is happening? People don't just switch bodies." "I don't know," Mika said, her gaze darting around nervously. "This only happens in movies and manga, not real life." "Did you, I don't know, make a wish or something?" I asked, grasping at straws. "Touch a magical object? Piss off a witch?" Despite the situation, Mika's lips twitched. "Yes, Emmy. I secretly visited a witch who decided to punish me by putting us in each other's bodies. That makes perfect sense." "Well, do you have a better explanation?" I demanded. She sighed, running a hand through my hair, a gesture that was so Mika it looked bizarre on my body. "No, but we need to figure out how to switch back, and fast. I have a major client meeting tomorrow that I can't miss. And I apparently have dinner with my ex-boyfriend tonight," I added, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Mika winced. "I know you're upset about Kai." "Upset?" I interrupted. "Mika, you've been dating my ex for 6 months without telling me. You're engaged to him. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and I'm just finding out now because we've somehow switched bodies. Upset doesn't begin to cover it." "I know," she said, looking genuinely remorseful. "I should have told you sooner. I wanted to, but I was afraid of how you'd react. It just happened. We ran into each other at that charity gala I organized in December, and we got talking, and it felt right, Emmy. I never expected it, but it did." "So right that you kept it a secret from me for half a year?" I asked quietly. "That was wrong," she admitted. "I know that, and I'm so sorry. But can we please focus on the body switching problem first? Once we fix that, I promise we'll talk about Kai and everything else." She was right, of course. The immediate problem was figuring out why we'd suddenly switched bodies and how to switch back. "Fine," I agreed reluctantly. "Any ideas?" Mika bit her lip, my lip, in that thoughtful way she had. In the movies, people usually switch back by recreating whatever caused the switch in the first place. Did anything unusual happen yesterday? I thought back to the previous day. Nothing out of the ordinary. I worked a double shift here, went home, watched some TV, and went to bed early. Same, Mika said. Well, not the double shift part. I had meetings all day, then dinner with a client, then home to finalize some wedding details. She winced as she mentioned the wedding, clearly seeing the hurt flash across my face. Sorry. It's fine, I lied. So if nothing unusual happened, what triggered this? Mika frowned. Wait, didn't we both make the same comment yesterday when we were texting? I said something about wishing I could take a break from wedding planning, and you said, I said I wished I could trade lives with you for a day, I finished, remembering our conversation. But that was just a figure of speech. People say that kind of thing all the time without actually swapping bodies. I know, but it's the only thing that makes sense, Mika argued. Maybe we just need to both wish to be back in our own bodies. It sounded ridiculous, but at this point I was willing to try anything. Okay, on 3, we both close our eyes and wish to be back to normal. 1, 2, 3. We both squeezed our eyes shut. I concentrated harder than I ever had in my life, wishing with every fiber of my being to be back in my own body. After a few moments, I cautiously opened one eye. Mika, still in my body, was peeking back at me with a disappointed expression. Well, that didn't work, she sighed. Obviously, I muttered. This isn't a children's movie. Do you have a better idea? She challenged. I didn't. Maybe it's temporary, I suggested hopefully. Maybe we'll just switch back naturally after a day or something? Maybe, Mika agreed, though she didn't sound convinced. But we need to figure out how to handle things until then. You need to be me, and I need to be you. The thought of pretending to be Mika, especially around Kai, made my stomach twist into knots. I don't think I can do this. You have to, Mika insisted. At least for today. If we're still switched tomorrow, we'll, I don't know, call in sick or something, but I need you to be me tonight with Kai. Please. I stared at her, at myself, feeling trapped. What choice did I have? Fine, but you have to give me a crash course on your relationship. I can't pretend to be engaged to him if I don't know the basic details. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. And of course, I'll tell you everything you need to know. For the next hour, Mika filled me in on her relationship with Kai, how they'd reconnected at the charity gala, their first date at a rooftop restaurant downtown, how he'd proposed on a weekend trip to Kyoto 2 months ago, down on one knee in a beautiful garden at sunset. Each detail was like a tiny knife to my heart. But I forced myself to listen and remember. If I was going to pull this off, I needed to know these things. We're having dinner with my parents tomorrow night, Mika added, but hopefully we'll be back to normal by then. And if we're not? I asked. She hesitated. Then you'll have to go. They're flying in specially to discuss final wedding arrangements. Great. Not only did I have to pretend to be my best friend who was engaged to my ex, but I might also have to discuss wedding plans with her parents. This nightmare just kept getting better. What about work? I asked, suddenly remembering that I was scheduled for a shift that afternoon. You can't make coffee to save your life. I'll call in sick, Mika said. What about my meetings tomorrow? Reschedule if you can, I suggested, but I can probably fake my way through them if necessary. I've heard you talk about work enough to get the basics. We spent another hour going over essential details of each other's lives, passwords to devices, daily routines, upcoming appointments. By the time we finished, it was early afternoon. I should go, Mika said reluctantly. I need to figure out your apartment before anyone stops by. And I need to prepare for dinner with Kai, I replied, feeling a knot of anxiety form in my stomach. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. It'll be okay. Just be normal. Well, normal for me. Don't overthink it. Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one who had to pretend to be in love with the man she'd never quite gotten over. As we stood to leave, Mika hesitated. Emmy, I really am sorry about Kai. I never meant to hurt you. I looked at her, at my own face wearing an expression of genuine regret, and felt my anger soften slightly. Mika had been my best friend for years. I knew she wasn't cruel or calculating by nature. Let's just focus on switching back, I said, not quite ready to forgive her yet. We'll deal with the rest later. With that, we parted ways, each heading back to the other's life, hoping that this bizarre situation would resolve itself soon. Little did I know that my dinner with Kai would change everything. I spent the rest of the afternoon in Mika's apartment, trying to familiarize myself with her life. I went through her planner, checked her emails, and practiced her signature in case I needed it, though I'd been able to forge it reasonably well since our college days when we'd occasionally sign each other in for classes. At 5:30, I started getting ready for dinner, rummaging through Mika's extensive wardrobe for something appropriate. I finally settled on a simple black dress that seemed suitable for a nice restaurant date, paired with modest heels. I'd never mastered walking in the stilettos Mika preferred. As I applied makeup, another skill I wasn't particularly adept at, I tried to calm my racing heart. It had been 8 months since I'd seen Kai. 8 months of trying to get over him, of telling myself I was fine, that we weren't meant to be. And now I was about to have dinner with him, pretending to be the woman he actually wanted to marry. My stomach churned with anxiety and something else I didn't want to acknowledge: anticipation. Despite everything, a small, traitorous part of me was looking forward to seeing him again. At precisely 6:45, I heard the front door open. "Mika?" Kai's voice called out. "Are you ready?" I froze, lipstick halfway to my mouth. His voice, so familiar, yet it had been so long since I'd heard it in person rather than in my memories. "Almost," I called back, proud that my voice remained steady. "Just finishing my makeup." I quickly finished applying the lipstick, checked my reflection one last time, and took a deep breath. "You can do this," I whispered to Mika's reflection. "It's just dinner." When I emerged from the bedroom, Kai was waiting in the living room, checking something on his phone. He looked up as I entered, and my heart did a somersault. He looked exactly the same, yet somehow different. The same tall frame, the same dark hair that always fell across his forehead in that way that made me want to brush it back. The same warm brown eyes. But there was a new confidence to him, a subtle change in the way he carried himself that I didn't recognize. "Wow," he said, his eyes traveling appreciatively over me. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," I managed, trying to remember how Mika would respond. Would she be casual, flirtatious? I had no idea how she acted with him in private. He crossed the room and leaned down to kiss me. I panicked for a split second, before realizing I couldn't exactly dodge my supposed fiancé's kiss without raising suspicion. So I let him press his lips gently against mine, fighting the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. It was brief, thankfully, but it left me feeling like I'd been electrocuted. 8 months, and my body, well, Mika's body, still reacted to him like a compass finding north. "Ready to go?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak just yet. The drive to the restaurant was torture. Kai chatted about his day, his meeting with investors, plans for the weekend, and I responded with what I hoped were appropriate noises of interest, all while trying not to stare at his profile or inhale too deeply when I caught the familiar scent of his cologne. This was Kai, but not my Kai anymore. He was Mika's Kai now, and I was just an imposter in her body, pretending to be the woman he loved. Sakura hadn't changed since the last time I'd been there with him. Same elegant decor, same soft lighting, same intimate tables. The hostess led us to a corner table, not the same one where we'd celebrated our anniversary, thankfully. "The usual?" Kai asked as we studied the menus. I panicked momentarily. What was the usual for Mika and Kai? Did they have a standard order? "Actually, I'm in the mood for something different tonight," I hedged. Kai raised an eyebrow. "You always get the salmon teriyaki." "Do I?" I smiled weakly. "Well, variety is the spice of life, right?" He chuckled. "Sure. What are you thinking instead?" I quickly scanned the menu, looking for something I knew Mika enjoyed. "The miso black cod, I think." "Good choice," he said, setting down his menu. "I'll stick with the wagyu." After we ordered, Kai reached across the table and took my hand. "So how was your day? Still stressed about the wedding planning?" I swallowed hard. It was eventful, and yes, still a bit stressed. "Your parents arrive tomorrow, right?" he asked. I nodded, recalling what Mika had told me. "Yes, for dinner. I'm sure they'll have plenty of opinions about the final arrangements." Kai squeezed my hand sympathetically. "It'll be fine. Your mom might be detail-oriented, but she means well." "That's one way to put it," I said, remembering Mika's frequent complaints about her mother's perfectionism. "Have you heard from Emmy today?" he asked suddenly, catching me off guard. I nearly choked on my water. "Emmy? Why do you ask?" He shrugged, looking slightly uncomfortable. I know you're planning to tell her about us this weekend, and I was wondering if you'd mentioned anything yet." "No," I said carefully. "I haven't had a chance to talk to her properly today." Kai nodded, his expression troubled. "I'm worried about how she'll take it. I know it's been 8 months since we broke up, but she took it pretty hard. The fact that he knew how badly our breakup had affected me meant that Mika had told him, had shared my private pain with the very person who caused it. The betrayal stung. I'm sure she'll understand, I said, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from my voice. Kai looked at me sharply. You okay? You seem different tonight? I forced a smile. Just tired, lots on my mind with the wedding so close. He studied me for a moment longer, then seemed to accept my explanation. I get it, it's a lot, but just 3 more weeks, and then we'll be on that beach in Bali for 2 whole weeks. No work, no wedding planning, no stress. The honeymoon. Of course they'd planned a honeymoon. I hadn't even thought about that aspect of their relationship. Sounds perfect, I managed. Dinner continued, and I did my best to navigate the conversation without giving myself away. It was exhausting, constantly monitoring every word, every reaction, trying to be Mika rather than myself. But the hardest part was being with Kai again. Seeing his smile, hearing his laugh, noticing all the little habits and expressions I'd fallen in love with, and knowing that he wasn't smiling for me, wasn't laughing at my jokes, wasn't loving me back. Halfway through the meal, he mentioned something about a trip they'd taken to Osaka last month, and I realized I had no idea what he was talking about. Mika hadn't mentioned any Osaka trip during our crash course. Remember that tiny ramen shop we found? He prompted when I looked blank. The one with the chef who kept giving us extra gyoza because he said we looked so in love? Oh, right, I said, scrambling to recover. The one with the red lanterns outside. Kai frowned slightly. No, it had those paper cranes hanging from the ceiling, remember? You took photos for your Instagram? Of course, I backtracked. I was thinking of a different place. His frown deepened. Are you sure you're okay? You seem, I don't know, distracted, like you're not really here. I'm fine, I insisted. Really, just wedding stress. He didn't look convinced. Is there something you're not telling me, Mika? Because you've been acting strange all evening. A wild impulse seized me, to tell him the truth, to say, actually, I'm not Mika, I'm Emmy, the woman you left behind, somehow trapped in your fiancé's body. To see the shock on his face, to force him to confront the bizarre reality of the situation. But I couldn't do that to Mika. Despite my hurt and anger over her secret relationship with Kai, she was still my best friend. And if I revealed the truth, he would think we were both insane. Everything's fine, I assured him instead. I promise. He seemed to accept this, though not without a lingering look of concern that made me wonder if I was doing a worse job of impersonating Mika than I thought. By the time dessert arrived, a matcha cheesecake we shared, I was emotionally exhausted, playing the role of the happy bride-to-be while sitting across from the man I'd once thought I'd marry myself was taking a toll I hadn't anticipated. When Kai excused himself to take a phone call outside, I slumped in my chair, letting the facade drop momentarily. How was I going to get through 3 more weeks of this if we didn't switch back soon? How was I supposed to watch Mika marry Kai while pretending to be happy for them? As I was wallowing in these thoughts, my phone, Mika's phone, vibrated with a text. I glanced down to see a message from myself. Mika, how's it going? Is Kai suspicious? I quickly typed back. Me, he knows something's off. I'm trying my best, but I don't know enough details about your relationship. Did you forget to mention your trip to Osaka? Mika, Osaka? We haven't been to Osaka together. I frowned at the screen. What was Kai talking about then? Me, he specifically mentioned a ramen shop in Osaka with paper cranes on the ceiling. Said you took Instagram photos. There was a long pause before Mika's next message appeared. Mika, that wasn't with me. That must have been with someone else. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Someone else? Had Kai been to Osaka with another woman? Before I could process this, another text came through. Mika, actually, that sounds like somewhere you mentioned going with him when you were dating. My heart skipped a beat. I did remember that trip. It was about a month before our breakup. We'd gone to Osaka for a weekend and found that tiny ramen shop tucked away in a side street. The chef had indeed given us extra gyoza because we were young and in love. I'd taken photos but never posted them because I'd been saving them for a scrapbook I was making for our anniversary, an anniversary that never came. Kai had confused a memory with me for one with Mika. I quickly shoved the phone into my bag as I saw Kai returning to the table. Sorry about that, he said, sliding back into his seat. Work never stops, even in the evening. It's fine, I replied automatically, my mind still racing with the implications of what had just happened. Had Kai confused other memories? Did he still think about our time together? As we finished dessert and waited for the check, Kai reached across the table and took my hand again. I know you're stressed about telling Emmy about us, but it'll be okay. She'll understand eventually. And if she doesn't, well, that's her problem, not ours. The callousness of his words stung. Was this how he really felt? That my feelings, Emmy's feelings, were just an inconvenience to be dismissed? Don't you care about hurting her? I asked before I could stop myself. Kai looked surprised by the question. Of course I care. Emmy's a great person and I never wanted to hurt her. But it's been 8 months since we broke up. She needs to move on eventually. Maybe she would have moved on more easily if her best friend hadn't started dating her ex behind her back, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Kai's eyebrows shot up. Whoa, where is this coming from? You're the one who said we should wait to tell her because she was still fragile about the breakup. So it had been Mika's idea to keep their relationship a secret from me. Somehow that made it worse. I'm sorry, I said, struggling to regain control of my emotions. You're right, I'm just worried about how she'll take it. Kai's expression softened. I know, you two have been friends forever, but if she really cares about you, she'll want you to be happy. And if she can't accept that, then maybe she's not the friend you thought she was. I bit my tongue to keep from responding. The irony of him questioning my friendship with Mika, when she was the one who had betrayed my trust, was almost too much to bear. After dinner, we drove back to Mika's apartment in relative silence. Kai seemed to sense that something was off, but thankfully didn't press the issue further. As we entered the apartment, anxiety gripped me. What now? I couldn't very well sleep in the same bed as Kai. That would be crossing a line I wasn't prepared to cross, body swap or no body swap. I think I'm going to take a long bath, I announced as soon as we were inside. It's been a stressful day. Want some company? Kai asked with a suggestive smile that made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. Not tonight, I said quickly. I just need some time to decompress alone if that's okay. He looked disappointed, but nodded. Sure, I have some work to finish up anyway. I retreated to the bathroom, locked the door and leaned against it, breathing heavily. This was a nightmare, a complete and utter nightmare. I had to find a way to switch back with Mika as soon as possible. I filled the tub and sank into the hot water, trying to clear my mind. There had to be a solution to this body-swapping problem, and once we fixed that, I would have to figure out how to deal with the reality of Mika and Kai's relationship. As I soaked, I couldn't stop thinking about Kai confusing his memory with me for one with Mika. What did it mean? Was it just an innocent mix-up, or was there more to it? After my bath, I changed into a pair of Mika's pajamas and cautiously emerged from the bathroom. Kai was sitting on the couch, laptop open, glasses perched on his nose, a look that had always made my heart flutter when we were together. Feeling better? He asked, glancing up. A little, I replied. I think I'm going to head to bed early. He nodded, returning his attention to his work. I'll join you in a bit. I escaped to the bedroom, closing the door behind me. Pulling out Mika's phone, I quickly texted her. I can't do this. I can't sleep in the same bed as Kai. Her response came quickly. Mika, you have to. If you insist on sleeping separately, he'll know something's wrong. I don't care. This is too much. I can say I'm not feeling well or something. Mika, please, Emmy, just for tonight. We'll figure this out tomorrow, I promise. I stared at the screen, feeling trapped. This whole situation was impossible. How had my life become such a mess in the span of a single day? Fine, but we need to find a solution tomorrow. I can't keep doing this. Mika, I know, thank you. And Emmy, I'm sorry about everything. I turned off the phone without responding and climbed into Mika's bed, positioning myself as far to one side as possible. I was exhausted, but doubted I'd be able to sleep with the knowledge that Kai would soon be lying next to me. An hour later, I heard the bedroom door open quietly. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep as Kai moved around the room, changing clothes and brushing his teeth in the ensuite bathroom. The mattress dipped as he slid into bed beside me. For a moment, I thought I'd gotten away with my pretense of sleep, but then I felt his hand gently touch my shoulder. Mika, he whispered, are you awake? I kept my breathing even, not responding. He sighed softly, then leaned over and pressed a gentle kiss to my temple. Good night, he murmured, before settling back on his side of the bed. Tears burned behind my eyelids. How many times had I imagined Kai kissing me goodnight again? But this wasn't for me. The tenderness in his voice, the gentle kiss, it was all for Mika. I was just an imposter, experiencing affection meant for someone else. It was a long time before sleep finally claimed me, and when it did, my dreams were filled with confused images of Kai, sometimes looking at me with love, sometimes turning away to embrace a figure with Mika's face, but my voice. I woke the next morning to an empty bed and the sound of a shower running in the bathroom. For a blissful moment, I forgot the events of the previous day. Then reality crashed back, and I quickly checked my appearance. Still Mika, still trapped in my best friend's body. With a groan, I reached for her phone and saw several missed texts from myself. Mika in my body. Mika, are you awake? Mika, emergency. Your neighbor Taro just stopped by asking about feeding your cat this weekend. You don't have a cat. I didn't know what to say. Mika, also still in your body. Call me when you wake up. I rolled my eyes. Taro wasn't my neighbor. He lived 3 doors down and had a massive crush on me. He was always inventing excuses to talk to me, including, apparently, imaginary pet-sitting arrangements. Before I could reply, Kai emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist. I quickly averted my eyes, feeling like I was violating both his privacy and Mika's trust. Morning, he said, heading to the closet. Did you sleep okay? You were tossing and turning a lot. Just stressed, I replied, keeping my gaze fixed on the phone. About telling Emmy, he asked, pulling on clothes. I hesitated. That and other things. It'll be fine, he assured me, now fully dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and slacks. I've got meetings all morning, but I should be home by 5 to get ready for dinner with your parents. Right, dinner with Mika's parents. I'd almost forgotten about that particular nightmare. Maybe we should reschedule, I suggested hopefully. I'm really not feeling great. Kai frowned, coming to sit on the edge of the bed. He placed a cool hand on my forehead. You don't feel warm. Is it your stomach? Just general unwellness, I said vaguely. Probably pre-wedding jitters. Your parents are only in town for 3 days, Kai reminded me. And you know how your mother gets when plans change at the last minute? I did know. Mika's mother was notorious for her rigid adherence to schedules and plans. Canceling dinner would create far more problems than it would solve. You're right, I sighed. I'll be fine. Kai leaned down and kissed my cheek. That's my girl. I've got to run, but I'll see you tonight. Love you. The casual love you felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Love you too, I managed to reply, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. As soon as he left, I called Mika. Finally, she answered on the first ring. I've been up since dawn. Your body apparently is an early riser. We need to fix this, I said without preamble. Now, today. I can't do dinner with your parents pretending to be you and engaged to Kai. It's too much. I know, Mika said. I've been researching body swapping all morning. Most of the results are just movie plots, but I did find some weird spiritual websites talking about soul transference. And? I prompted. And most of them say the same thing, that the switch happens for a reason, usually so each person can learn something from the other's perspective. Once the lesson is learned, the switch reverses. I groaned. That's not helpful. What lesson am I supposed to learn from being in your body? That my best friend betrayed me by dating my ex behind my back? Emmy, Mika said, her voice soft. I know you're hurt and angry. You have every right to be. But I never meant to fall for Kai. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Mika, I replied bitterly. You made choices. Both of you did. You're right, she conceded. But can we focus on the body swapping problem first? Once we're back to normal, we can talk about everything else, I promise. Fine, I agreed reluctantly. What's your plan? I think we should meet at the place where we last saw each other before the switch. Maybe being in the same physical location will trigger something. It was as good a plan as any. The cafe, then. Meet me there in an hour. After hanging up, I quickly showered and dressed in the most Mika-like outfit I could assemble, a chic blouse and skirt combination that she probably wore to meetings. As I applied makeup, I studied my reflection, Mika's reflection. We'd been friends since our first year of university, drawn together by a shared love of art and literature, despite our different backgrounds and personalities. Mika was polished, organized, ambitious. I was more spontaneous, creative, and laid back. We balanced each other out, or at least I thought we did. Now I wondered how well I really knew her, if she could keep such a significant secret from me for so long. I arrived at Moonbeam's cafe before Mika, securing our same corner table. My coworker, Yui, waved at me from behind the counter. Morning, Mika, she called. The usual, I nodded, remembering that Mika always ordered an almond milk latte when she visited me at work. A few minutes later, the door chimed, and I looked up to see myself, Mika in my body, enter the cafe. It was still jarring to see my own face and body moving without my control, expressions that weren't mine animating my features. "Anything?" she asked hopefully, as she slid into the seat across from me. I shook my head. "Still you in my body, still me in yours." She sighed, slumping in her chair. I was hoping just being in the same place would trigger the switch back. "Clearly not that simple," I replied. "What's plan B?" Mika bit her lip, a gesture that looked strange on my face since it was her habit, not mine. "I found this one website that suggested recreating the exact circumstances of the switch as closely as possible." "What were you doing right before you went to sleep that night?" I thought back. "Nothing special. I watched that new drama everyone's talking about, texted with you about how exhausted I was from my double shift, and went to bed around 11. "I was finalizing the seating chart for the wedding reception," Mika said. "Then I took a bath, did my skincare routine, and went to bed around midnight." We looked at each other, searching for any commonality that might explain the switch. "Wait," I said suddenly. "Did you make a wish when we were texting?" Mika frowned. "A wish? I don't think so." "You said you wished for a break from wedding planning, and I said I wished I could trade lives with you for a day, remember?" Recognition dawned in her eyes. "That's right. You said something like, 'I wish I could be you for a day, with your fancy apartment and glamorous job, instead of serving coffee for minimum wage.'" I winced at the reminder of my self-pitying text. "And you replied, 'And I wish I could be you, with no wedding stress and freedom to just live your life.'" "So we both explicitly wished to trade places," Mika concluded. "That has to be it." "But people wish for things all the time without it actually happening," I pointed out. "Maybe it was the specific wording, or the fact that we both wished it at the same moment. Or maybe it's because there's this huge unresolved issue between us. You know, the fact that you're marrying my ex-boyfriend and never told me," I said, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. Mika had the grace to look ashamed. "Emmy, I'm so sorry. I should have told you months ago. I was a coward." "Why him, Mika?" I asked, the question that had been burning inside me since I'd discovered their relationship. "Out of all the men in Tokyo, why did it have to be Kai?" She looked down at her hands, my hands, for a long moment before answering. "I didn't plan it. When we ran into each other at the gala, I was just being polite. But we got talking and... I don't know. Something clicked. He told me he'd been regretting the way things ended with you, that the long-distance relationship could have worked if he'd tried harder." "He said that?" I asked, a painful hope flaring in my chest. "Yes," Mika confirmed. "But he also said that even before the job offer, he'd been feeling like you two wanted different things from life, that breaking up had been inevitable, even if the timing was rushed." The hope withered as quickly as it had bloomed. "So what? You comforted him over his guilt about dumping me, and one thing led to another?" "It wasn't like that," Mika insisted. "We just talked that night. Then he called me a week later, ostensibly to ask about event planning for his company's function. We met for coffee, strictly professional, but the conversation kept veering personal, and... I don't know, Emmy. I liked him. I tried not to, because of you, but I did." I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "And he liked you back?" She nodded, looking miserable. "He asked me out properly about a month after the gala. I said no at first, because of you, but he was persistent, and eventually, I gave in. And kept it a secret from me for 6 months," I added. "I wanted to tell you," Mika said earnestly, "so many times, but it never seemed like the right moment. You were finally doing better, dating again, focusing on your writing. I didn't want to reopen old wounds. So instead, you let me find out by literally waking up in your body, engaged to the man I thought I would marry." I laughed bitterly. "Much better approach." "I know it's terrible," she admitted. "I handled everything wrong, but Emmy, I love him, and he loves me. Please try to understand." I stared at her, at my own face looking back at me with pleading eyes, and felt my anger crumble slightly. Despite everything, this was still Mika, my best friend for years, who had been there for me through breakups, job disappointments, family dramas. "I need time," I said finally. "This is a lot to process." She nodded. "I understand, but first we need to switch back. I think we should try explicitly wishing to return to our own bodies, like we did before, but maybe with more specific wording." "Fine," I agreed, eager to focus on the more solvable of our problems. We closed our eyes, each stating our wish to return to our own body, But nothing happened. We tried again with different wording, holding hands across the table this time, but still no change. "This is ridiculous," I said after our third attempt. "It clearly takes more than just wishing." "Maybe there is some lesson we need to learn," Mika suggested, like those websites said. "What lesson?" I asked, exasperated. "That you shouldn't date your best friend's ex? I think we've established that." Mika flinched, but persisted. Maybe you need to understand what it's like to be me, and I need to understand what it's like to be you. I need to experience your life, and you need to experience mine." "Including being engaged to Kai?" I asked skeptically. "Maybe," she said quietly. "Maybe you need to see that what he and I have is real, that it's not just some rebound or betrayal, but something genuine." The thought made my stomach churn. "And what do you need to learn from my life? How to make a decent cappuccino?" "Don't do that," Mika chided. "Don't diminish your life. Maybe I need to see what it's like to live more authentically, without all the pressure and expectations I put on myself. You've always been braver than me that way." I hadn't thought of it like that. Yes, Mika had the more conventionally successful life, the glamorous job, the upscale apartment, the picture-perfect relationship, but she also lived under constant pressure, always striving to meet or exceed expectations, rarely allowing herself to just be. "So, what are you suggesting?" I asked. "That we just live each other's lives for a while and see what happens?" "Maybe for a day or two," she nodded. "If we're still switched after that, we can try something else." I didn't like it, but I didn't have a better idea. "Fine, but I'm not sleeping in the same bed as Kai again. I'll take the couch if I have to." "Fair enough," Mika agreed. "And I need you to walk me through your work schedule. I called in sick yesterday, but I can't keep doing that." We spent the next hour exchanging detailed information about our lives, Mika's clients and ongoing projects, my shift patterns and coffee-making techniques. It was surreal, like preparing to play a role in an elaborate play. "And dinner with your parents tonight?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Just be yourself." "Well, me," Mika advised. "My mother will talk enough for everyone, and my father will mainly focus on his food. If wedding details come up, defer to my mother's judgment. She loves being in charge." "And Kai?" Mika hesitated. "Just be normal. Affectionate, but not overly so in front of my parents. They're still pretty traditional." "Got it," I said, thinking this might actually be the most challenging acting job of my life. As we prepared to leave, Mika reached out and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for doing this. I know it's not fair to ask you to pretend to be engaged to Kai." "No, it's not," I agreed. "But I don't see that we have much choice at this point." She nodded, looking relieved but still troubled. "Emmy, no matter what happens with Kai, I don't want to lose you as a friend. You're too important to me." I looked at her, at myself, and felt the complicated tangle of love, hurt, and betrayal that defined our friendship right now. "Let's just focus on switching back first. We'll figure out the rest later." With that, we parted ways, each returning to the other's life, uncertain of what the next day would bring. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of anxiety as I prepared for dinner with Mika's parents. I knew them fairly well after years of friendship with their daughter, but I'd never had to impersonate her in front of them before. At precisely 5 o'clock, Kai returned to the apartment. "I'm home," he called, his familiar voice still sending an unwelcome flutter through me. "In the bedroom," I replied, putting the finishing touches on my makeup. I'd chosen one of Mika's more conservative dresses for dinner, knowing her mother's preference for traditional elegance. Kai appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame as he watched me. "You look beautiful," he said. "Feeling better than this morning?" "A little," I lied, avoiding his gaze in the mirror. He crossed the room and placed his hands on my shoulders, meeting my eyes in the reflection. "Are you sure there's nothing else bothering you? You've seemed distant since last night." I tensed under his touch. "I told you. It's just stress." "Mika," he said gently, turning me to face him. "Talk to me. What's really going on?" Looking into his eyes, those familiar brown eyes that used to look at me with such love, I felt a surge of emotions. Anger at his casual dismissal of my feelings as Emmy, hurt over his rapid transition from loving me to loving my best friend, and beneath it all, a treacherous current of longing that I couldn't quite suppress. "I'm fine," I insisted, pulling away from his grasp. "We should get ready. My parents will be waiting." He studied me for a moment longer, then nodded, though he didn't look convinced. "Okay, I'll shower quickly and change." As he disappeared into the bathroom, I let out a shaky breath. This was torture. How was I supposed to get through an entire evening pretending to be happily engaged to the man who had broken my heart? By 6:30, we were seated at an upscale restaurant downtown, waiting for Mika's parents to arrive. I fidgeted nervously with my napkin, rehearsing proper topics of conversation in my head. "Relax," Kai murmured, covering my hand with his. "It's just your parents, not the emperor." "My mother can be more intimidating than the emperor," I replied, echoing something I'd heard Mika say many times. Kai chuckled. "True, but she loves me, remember? I'm the perfect match she always wanted for you." That stung. Mika's mother had never been particularly impressed with me as a friend for her daughter, always suggesting Mika should spend more time with her more ambitious classmates. Had she approved of Kai for the same reasons she had disapproved of me? Before I could dwell on this, I spotted Mika's parents entering the restaurant. Her father, tall and distinguished with salt and pepper hair. Her mother, petite but commanding in an elegant navy dress, her critical gaze already sweeping the restaurant. Kai and I stood to greet them. Mika's mother, Haruko, air-kissed my cheeks before subjecting me to a thorough assessment. "Mika, darling, you look tired," she declared. "Are you getting enough sleep? A bride needs her rest before the big day." "I'm fine, mother," I replied, mimicking Mika's slightly formal tone with her parents. She said, unconvinced, before turning to Kai with a warm smile. "Kai, handsome as ever. How's the new project coming along?" While Kai engaged in conversation with Haruko, Mika's father, Takashi, gave me a gentle pat on the shoulder. "You look lovely, Mika," he said quietly. Unlike his wife, Takashi had always been kind to me as Emmy, appreciating my interest in literature that matched his own. "Thank you, father," I replied with a genuine smile. Once seated, Haruko wasted no time diving into wedding details. "I've spoken with the florist about the centerpieces. I think we should upgrade to the premium arrangement for the head table, don't you?" I blinked, having no idea what the current centerpiece plan was. "Whatever you think is best," I hedged. Haruko beamed. "Wonderful. I've already told them to make the change, and the final menu tasting is scheduled for next week, Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Can you both make it?" I glanced at Kai, who nodded. "Should be fine," he confirmed. Good, Haruko continued, barely pausing for breath. "Now about the seating arrangements. Your cousin Yumi called to say she's bringing a +1 after all, which throws off the entire table plan. I'm thinking we move the Watanabes to table 7 and put Yumi and her date at table 3 with your college friends." I nodded, having completely lost track of the conversation. "That sounds perfect." "Are you sure?" Haruko asked, narrowing her eyes. "Just yesterday you insisted that the Watanabes had to be at table 4 because of that ridiculous feud with your father's business partner." I froze, caught in a trap of my own making. "I had time to reconsider," I improvised. "You're right, table 7 makes more sense for them." Haruko studied me suspiciously. "You never admit I'm right this easily. What's going on with you?" "Nothing," I insisted. "I'm just prioritizing. Some battles aren't worth fighting." This seemed to satisfy her, though she still gave me a curious look before launching into a detailed analysis of the wedding photographer's portfolio. The evening continued in this vein, with Haruko dominating the conversation, Takashi occasionally interjecting with a calming comment, and Kai smoothly navigating the complex dynamics of the Tanaka family. I did my best to respond appropriately, but it was exhausting trying to anticipate how Mika would react to each topic. By the time dessert arrived, I was mentally drained. I excused myself to the restroom, needing a brief respite from the performance. In the privacy of a stall, I pulled out Mika's phone and texted myself. "Me, your mother is exhausting. How do you deal with her wedding obsession?" The response came quickly. "Mika, years of practice, and wine. Is it going okay otherwise?" "Me, I think so. Kai keeps giving me weird looks, but your parents seem convinced I'm you, just extra stressed about the wedding." "Mika, good. How are you holding up? With the Kai situation, I mean." I hesitated before responding honestly. "Me, it's hard. Really hard. It hurts to see him, to have him touch me and look at me with love in his eyes when I know it's not for me. It brings up all the feelings I thought I'd moved past. Mika, I'm sorry. I wish there was an easier way through this. Me too. But right now I just need to get through this dinner without having a breakdown or blowing my cover. Mika, you can do it. Just a bit longer." I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and returned to the table where Haruko was now discussing the honeymoon itinerary in excruciating detail. "There you are, darling," she said as I slid back into my seat. I was just telling Kai that you should definitely upgrade to the ocean villa at the resort. It's your honeymoon, no time to be frugal. Mother, we've discussed this, I said, recalling Mika's frequent complaints about her mother's tendency to push for more expensive options. Our budget is set. Budgets are for everyday life, not once-in-a-lifetime events, Haruko declared with a dismissive wave. Isn't that right, Kai? Kai smiled diplomatically. We'll certainly consider the upgrade, Mrs. Tanaka, but Mika's very good at budgeting, and I trust her judgment. I shot him a grateful look, which he returned with a warm smile that made my heart ache with familiar longing. By the time dinner finally ended, I was mentally and emotionally exhausted. We said our goodbyes outside the restaurant, with promises to meet again before the wedding for final preparations. That wasn't so bad, was it? Kai asked as we drove back to Mika's apartment. My mother was in rare form tonight, I replied, staring out the window. She means well, Kai said charitably. She just wants everything to be perfect for you. I made a non-committal noise, too tired to maintain the charade any longer. When we reached the apartment, I immediately headed for the bathroom. I'm going to take a shower, I announced, needing space to process the evening. Under the hot water, I finally let the tears come. Sitting across from Kai at dinner, watching him charm Mika's parents, seeing him so comfortable in the role of soon-to-be son-in-law, it had made everything painfully real. In 3 weeks, he would be married to my best friend, and I would have to stand beside them, smiling, pretending my heart wasn't breaking all over again. After my shower, I found Kai in the living room, TV on but his attention on his phone. He looked up as I entered, dressed in Mika's silky pajamas. Feel better? He asked. I nodded, hovering uncertainly. I'd already decided I wasn't sleeping in the same bed as him again, but I wasn't sure how to broach the subject. I think I'll sleep on the couch tonight, I said finally. I've been tossing and turning, and I don't want to disturb your sleep. Kai frowned. The couch? Don't be ridiculous. If anyone should take the couch, it's me. No, really, I insisted. I just need some space. His frown deepened. Space? Mika, what's going on? And don't say nothing or wedding stress again. Something's clearly bothering you, and it's more than just telling Emmy about us or dealing with your mother. I bit my lip, unsure how to respond. I couldn't tell him the truth, but I needed some excuse for my abnormal behavior. I'm just having doubts, I said finally, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Kai's expression shifted from concern to shock. Doubts? About us? About the wedding? I don't know, I said, unable to meet his eyes. Everything's happening so fast. 3 weeks until the wedding, and I'm still keeping secrets from my best friend. It doesn't feel right. He stood and crossed to me, taking my hands in his. Mika, look at me. Reluctantly, I raised my gaze to his. If you need more time, we can postpone the wedding, he said seriously. I don't want you walking down the aisle with doubts. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. This was a side of Kai I remembered well, the thoughtful, considerate man who had always put my feelings first when we were together. At least until the end. No, I said quickly, realizing I'd gone too far in my improvisation. Mika would never forgive me if I got her wedding postponed. I don't want to postpone, I'm just overwhelmed. Kai studied me for a long moment. Are you sure that's all it is? Because you've been acting strange since yesterday, almost like you're a different person. My heart skipped a beat. Had he somehow figured out the truth? What do you mean? I asked, trying to sound casual. I don't know, he said, still watching me closely. You're using different expressions, different mannerisms. You ordered miso black cod last night when you always get salmon teriyaki. You didn't remember our trip to Osaka. And tonight, with your parents, you agreed with your mother about the Watanabe seating when 2 days ago you were adamant they had to be at table 4. I swallowed hard. I told you I'm stressed. It's making me forgetful and indecisive. Kai didn't look convinced. It's more than that. It's like... He paused, shaking his head as if dismissing a ridiculous thought. Never mind. No, tell me, I urged, curious despite myself. He let out a short laugh. It's crazy, but you've been reminding me of Emmy. The way you phrase things, your mannerisms, even some of your expressions. My breath caught. That's ridiculous. I know, he agreed quickly. Probably just because we've been talking about telling her about us. She's on my mind, and I'm seeing things that aren't there. The mention of me, the real me, in this context sent a pang through my chest. Do you think about her often? Emmy? I mean. Kai looked surprised by the question. Sometimes, I guess. She was a big part of my life for 2 years. Do you ever regret how things ended? I asked, unable to stop myself. He was silent for a long moment. Sometimes, he admitted finally. I think I could have handled it better, been more honest from the beginning about my doubts. Doubts? I echoed, feeling a fresh wave of pain. What doubts? Kai sighed, running a hand through his hair. Why are we talking about this now? I thought we agreed to leave the past in the past. I just need to understand, I pressed, desperate to hear his side of our breakup story. He studied me for a moment, then relented. Fine. Yes, I had doubts about my relationship with Emmy before the job offer. We wanted different things. She was content with her life here, her cafe job, her writing hobby, her small circle of friends. I wanted more, career advancement, travel, experiences. So her life wasn't exciting enough for you? I asked, anger edging into my voice. It wasn't about excitement, Kai corrected, frowning. It was about compatibility, about shared goals and visions for the future. Emmy and I just didn't align on those things. The job offer was the catalyst, but the breakup was probably inevitable. And you and Mika do align? I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. Yes, he said simply. From the moment we reconnected, it was clear we wanted the same things. Success, growth, building something meaningful together. It felt right in a way that... He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. In a way that it never did with Emmy, I finished for him, my heart sinking. Kai looked away. I cared deeply for Emmy. She's a wonderful person, creative, compassionate, genuine, but we weren't right for each other long term. You and I are. Each word felt like a knife to my heart, but I forced myself to nod. I see. Why the sudden interest in my ex? Kai asked, looking suspicious again. You've never wanted to discuss Emmy in detail before. Just working through some things before we tell her about us, I improvised. I want to be prepared for her reaction. He seemed to accept this explanation. Like I said before, she'll either understand and be happy for us or she won't. Either way, we can't let it affect our relationship. The callousness of his assessment stung. Was this really how little my feelings mattered to him now? Right, I said quietly. Well, I'm still going to take the couch tonight. I need some space to think. Kai looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. If that's what you need. But Mika, we need to talk about these doubts of yours. Really talk. This isn't like you. If only he knew how right he was. Tomorrow, I promised. We'll talk tomorrow. He nodded, looking troubled as he retreated to the bedroom alone. I curled up on the couch, pulling a throw blanket over me, and stared at the ceiling in the darkened living room. Today had been a roller coaster of emotions, pretending to be Mika with her parents, hearing Kai's honest assessment of our past relationship, confronting the reality of their upcoming wedding. And somewhere beneath all of this was the bizarre fact that I was still trapped in my best friend's body, with no idea how to return to my own. As exhaustion finally pulled me towards sleep, one thought kept circling in my mind. Kai had noticed similarities between Mika and me. He'd sensed something of me in my behavior, despite my best efforts to impersonate my friend. What did that mean? And why did it give me a flicker of hope I knew I had no right to feel? I drifted off to sleep with these questions unanswered, dreaming of weddings where I stood at the altar, only to look down and see I was wearing someone else's face. The sun filtering through Mika's living room blinds woke me early. For a moment, I stared at the unfamiliar ceiling, disoriented. Then reality crashed back. I was still in Mika's body, still pretending to be her, still dealing with the impossible situation of my best friend being engaged to my ex. I sat up, wincing at the stiffness in my back from sleeping on the couch. Checking Mika's phone, I saw it was barely 6:30 a.m. Too early to call Mika, but plenty of time to reflect on last night's revelations. Kai's words echoed in my mind. We wanted different things. We weren't right for each other long term. The casual certainty with which he'd dismissed our relationship hurt more than I wanted to admit. But something else nagged at me. The fact that he'd noticed similarities between my behavior and the real Emmy's. Had something of my true self been showing through, despite my attempts to act like Mika? And what did it mean that he was able to recognize it so quickly? The sound of a door opening interrupted my thoughts. Kai emerged from the bedroom, already dressed in workout clothes. Morning, he said, looking slightly surprised to see me awake. You're up early. Couldn't sleep well, I admitted, sitting up straighter. He nodded, an awkward tension hanging between us after last night's conversation. I'm going for a run. Do you want to join me? The invitation surprised me. Mika hated running. It was something I'd always done, not her. You know I don't run, I said automatically. A strange expression crossed his face. Right, of course, I just thought, never mind. As he headed for the door, I couldn't help asking, why did you invite me? You know Mika doesn't enjoy running. Kai paused, his hand on the doorknob. I don't know. Like I said last night, you've been reminding me of Emmy lately. She used to run with me sometimes. With that, he left, leaving me to ponder his words. He'd invited me to run because something about me reminded him of, well, me. The real me. I used the quiet morning to shower and prepare for another day of being Mika. According to her calendar, she had a client meeting at 10 a.m. that I couldn't miss without raising suspicions. I picked out one of her smart business outfits and practiced her confident walk in front of the mirror. Just as I was finishing my coffee, my phone rang, Mika calling from my body. Any changes? She asked without preamble. Still you, I confirmed. You? Still you, she sighed. This is getting ridiculous. Tell me about it, I muttered. I had dinner with your parents last night. Your mother spent 2 hours micromanaging your wedding details. Oh God, Mika groaned. I'm so sorry. Was it awful? Not as awful as my conversation with Kai afterward, I said, then filled her in on our discussion about his past relationship with me. He said all that? Mika asked, sounding troubled. About you two wanting different things? Yep, I confirmed, trying to keep my voice neutral. Apparently we were doomed from the start because I'm too content with my small, unambitious life. That's not fair, Mika said defensively. Your life isn't unambitious, it's just different from what Kai wants. Which is what you want too, apparently, I pointed out. Success, growth, building something meaningful together. His words, not mine. Mika was quiet for a moment. I do want those things, she admitted. But that doesn't mean I think any less of your choices, Emmy. Doesn't it, though? I asked, the question that had been lurking in my mind since discovering their relationship. You and Kai both seem to share this vision of an ideal life that looks nothing like mine. Maybe that's why you kept your relationship secret, because deep down, you were embarrassed about falling for someone who'd rejected your unambitious best friend. That's not true, Mika protested. I never thought that way about you. Never. I wanted to believe her, but doubt had taken root. Whatever. We need to focus on switching back. I can't keep pretending to be you, especially around Kai. He's already noticing inconsistencies. What do you mean? She asked, alarmed. I explained how Kai had commented that I reminded him of Emmy, even inviting me running because it was something the real me would do. That's concerning, Mika said, but maybe also useful? If there's still some connection between him and you, maybe that's part of why the switch happened. What are you saying? I asked cautiously. I'm not sure, she admitted. But what if there are unresolved feelings between you two? What if that's why we switched bodies? So you could both get closure? The suggestion made my pulse quicken. That's ridiculous. He made it very clear last night that breaking up with me was the right decision. People say a lot of things they don't fully mean, Mika replied, especially when they're justifying past choices. He's marrying you in 3 weeks, I reminded her. I think that's pretty definitive evidence of how he feels. Mika was quiet for a moment. You know what's weird? He asked about you yesterday, the real you. Wanted to know if I'd talked to you recently, how you were doing. He seemed, I don't know, more interested than usual. Probably just nervous about telling me about your engagement, I reasoned, ignoring the flutter of hope her words caused. Maybe, Mika said, sounding unconvinced. Anyway, I need to head to your shift at the cafe. Yui's been showing me the ropes, but I'm terrible at making coffee. Your customers probably think you've lost your touch. Despite everything, I laughed. Just stick to the register if you can. Let Yui handle the actual coffee making. Will do, she promised. And Emmy, we'll figure this out, both the body swapping and everything else. After we hung up, I headed to Mika's office for the client meeting. Thanks to her detailed notes and my years of hearing her talk about her work, I managed to fake my way through the presentation adequately, though the client did comment that I seemed less forceful than usual. By mid-afternoon, I was mentally exhausted from the constant performance. I decided to take a break at a small park near Mika's office, needing fresh air and time to think. As I sat on a bench, watching children play on the nearby equipment, I found myself reflecting on what Mika had said about unresolved feelings between Kai and me. Was it possible? Could there still be something there, despite his clear declaration that we weren't right for each other? And even if there was, what did it matter? He was engaged to my best friend. The wedding was in 3 weeks. Whatever might have been between us was firmly in the past. I was so lost in these thoughts that I didn't notice someone approaching until a shadow fell across me. "Fancy meeting you here." I looked up, startled to see Kai standing there, briefcase in hand, suit jacket slung over his arm in concession to the warm afternoon. "Kai, what are you doing here?" I asked, pulse quickening involuntarily. "My office is just around the corner," he explained. "I sometimes cut through the park on nice days. What about you? You never take breaks outside." Another slip. Mika preferred to work straight through the day, taking lunch at her desk. I was the one who needed outdoor breaks. "Just trying something different," I improvised. Kai sat beside me on the bench, loosening his tie. "Mind if I join you? It's been a crazy day." "Sure," I agreed, trying to ignore how natural it felt to have him beside me, even in this surreal situation. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching the children play. It reminded me of countless similar moments during our relationship, quiet interludes in parks or cafes, content in each other's presence without needing to fill the space with words. "About last night," Kai finally said. "I'm sorry if I upset you talking about Emmy like that." "It's fine," I said automatically. "It's just," he continued, staring ahead at the playground. "I've been thinking about her a lot lately, about how she'll react to the news. If she'll hate me, hate us." "Would that bother you?" I asked carefully. "If she hated you?" Kai was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he admitted finally. "It would. Despite how things ended, I still care about her. I never wanted to hurt her." The sincerity in his voice made my throat tighten. "But you did." "I know," he acknowledged quietly. "And now we're going to hurt her again by telling her about us, about the wedding." I swallowed hard. "Maybe she'll understand. Maybe she'll be happy for you, for us." Kai turned to look at me directly. "Do you really believe that?" I met his gaze, finding it difficult to lie while looking into those familiar brown eyes. "I don't know, but I think Emmy would want the people she cares about to be happy, even if that happiness didn't include her." Something shifted in Kai's expression, a softening, a recognition. "That sounds exactly like something she would say." My heart stuttered. "Does it?" He nodded, still studying me intently. "Yes, she was always like that, putting others' happiness before her own. It was one of the things I loved about her. Loved. Past tense, but the word still sent a thrill through me. "You never talk about what you loved about her," I observed, taking a risk. "Only about why you weren't right for each other." Kai sighed, leaning back on the bench. "Because it's easier that way. Easier to focus on the logical reasons we broke up than to remember all the good parts." "And there were good parts?" I pressed gently. A small smile played at his lips. "Many. She is special, creative, passionate, sees the world in a way no one else does. Being with her was like seeing everything through new eyes." Each word was like a balm to wounds I hadn't realized were still so raw. "Then why did I leave?" he finished for me. "Because sometimes love isn't enough. Because wanting different futures eventually tears even the strongest relationships apart. Because I thought a clean break would hurt less in the long run than slowly growing to resent each other." "And now?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Do you think you made the right choice?" Kai was silent for so long I thought he might not answer. When he did, his voice was heavy with an emotion I couldn't quite identify. "Most days, yes," he said finally. "What I have with you, with Mika, makes sense. We want the same things, move in the same direction. It's easier." "But not all days?" I prompted, catching the qualification in his statement. He gave me a strange look. "Why are you asking me this, Mika? Why now, 3 weeks before our wedding?" I realized I'd pushed too far. "I just want to understand. About you and Emmy. Before we tell her about us." Kai didn't look entirely convinced, but he nodded. "Fair enough. The truth is, sometimes I do wonder what might have happened if I'd tried harder with Emmy. If we could have found a way to bridge our differences instead of letting them drive us apart. But that's in the past now." "Is it?" I asked before I could stop myself. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "What do you mean?" I backpedaled quickly. "Nothing. I just meant memories, feelings. They don't always stay neatly in the past where we put them." Kai studied me with an intensity that made me nervous. "You're different lately. Something's changed." "People change," I said evasively. "Not this quickly," he countered, "and not in ways that make them suddenly remind me of my ex-girlfriend." My heart raced as panic set in. Had I given myself away? "I should get back to the office," I said, standing abruptly. I have a call with a vendor at 3. Kai stood as well, his expression troubled. Mika, what's going on? And don't say nothing again. Something is clearly bothering you, and it seems connected to Emmy somehow. I told you, I'm just worried about how she'll take the news, I insisted. It's more than that, Kai pressed. The way you're talking, the questions you're asking, it's like you're trying to figure out if I still have feelings for her. The directness of his observation left me momentarily speechless. Do you? I finally asked, the question that had been burning inside me since I discovered their engagement. Still have feelings for her? Kai took a step back, looking stunned by my bluntness. I can't believe you're asking me that 3 weeks before our wedding. Just answer the question, I persisted, needing to know. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I remembered well from our relationship. Of course I care about her. She was an important part of my life for 2 years, but any romantic feelings ended when we broke up. I'm with you now. I'm marrying you. The conviction in his voice should have reassured me, but something in his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty perhaps, gave me pause. I have to go, I said, needing space to process this conversation. I'll see you at home tonight. Mika, he started, reaching for my arm. Later, I cut him off, pulling away. We'll talk later. I hurried from the park, my mind spinning. The conversation with Kai had left me more confused than ever. His words said one thing, that he was committed to Mika, that his feelings for me were firmly in the past. But something in his manner, in the way he spoke about me, suggested there might be unresolved emotions lingering beneath the surface. Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? I spent the rest of the afternoon going through the motions of Mika's job, but my thoughts were elsewhere. By the time I returned to her apartment that evening, I was no closer to understanding what was happening between Kai and me. Or rather, between Kai and Mika, with me caught in the middle. To my relief, the apartment was empty when I arrived. A note on the counter informed me that Kai had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until after dinner. I used the opportunity to call Mika, needing to talk through the day's events. It was so weird, I told her after recounting my park bench conversation with Kai. He was talking about me, the real me, in a way that made me wonder if he still has feelings there. Did he actually say that? Mika asked, her voice carefully neutral. Not exactly, I admitted. When I directly asked if he still had feelings for me, he denied it, said he's committed to you. But there was something in his eyes, Mika, something that didn't match his words. Or maybe you're seeing what you want to see, she suggested gently. It's natural, Emmy. You never got proper closure with Kai. This isn't about closure, I argued. It's about the fact that he keeps saying I, as in you, remind him of me lately. What if some part of him recognizes who I really am? What if that's why we can't switch back? Because there's something unresolved between Kai and me that needs to be addressed. Mika was quiet for a moment. Even if that were true, she said finally, what would it change? He's marrying me in 3 weeks. The reminder stung. I know that. I'm not trying to steal your fiancé, Mika. I'm just trying to figure out why we're stuck in each other's bodies. I know you wouldn't do that, she said quickly, but I also know you never fully got over Kai. So be careful, Emmy. Don't let your heart lead you somewhere that will only cause more pain. Her warning was fair, but it didn't address the central issue. So what do we do now? Just keep pretending until something changes? I don't think we have much choice, Mika sighed. But maybe you should try talking to Kai more about your relationship. As Emmy, I mean. If there is something unresolved there, bringing it to the surface might help us switch back. It was a risky strategy, but I was getting desperate. And if he realizes I'm not really you? If he figures out what's happened? He won't, Mika assured me. No rational person would jump to body swap as an explanation. At worst, he'll think you're having cold feet about the wedding. After hanging up, I paced Mika's apartment, considering my options. If Mika was right, if addressing the unfinished business between Kai and me might help reverse the switch, then I needed to find a way to broach the subject without raising too much suspicion. I was still pondering this when the apartment door opened, and Kai walked in, looking tired but pleased to see me. Hey, he said, setting down his briefcase. You're home early. I nodded. Light day. How was your meeting? Productive, he replied, loosening his tie. Listen, about earlier in the park. I want to talk about Emmy, I interrupted, deciding to take the direct approach. Kai blinked, caught off guard. Oh, Kay, what about her? I took a deep breath. I need to understand what happened between you two. Really understand, not just the surface explanation you've given me before. He frowned, clearly confused by this request. Why now? You've never wanted details about my relationship with Emmy before. Because we're about to tell her we're engaged, I explained. And I need to know what I'm walking into, what feelings might still be there, on either side. Kai studied me for a long moment, then sighed. All right, what do you want to know? Everything, I said simply. How you met, why you fell for her, what went wrong. The whole story. Kai ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable but resigned. That's a lot to get into tonight. We have time, I insisted, settling onto the couch and gesturing for him to join me. He sat beside me, maintaining a slight distance that spoke of his discomfort with the topic. I met Emmy at that book launch my company sponsored, the one for that fantasy author. She was working the cafe counter, and I ordered a coffee, simple as that. I remembered that night clearly, how nervous I'd been serving the handsome executive in the tailored suit, how I'd almost spilled his drink when he smiled at me. And, I prompted. And we got talking about books, Kai continued. She was passionate, animated in a way that drew me in. I asked her out right there, and she accepted. Our first date was at that little Italian place near her apartment. The one with the red checkered tablecloths, I murmured before I could stop myself. Kai nodded, not seeming to notice my slip. Right, it wasn't fancy, but the food was incredible. We talked for hours. About everything. Books, dreams, childhood memories. It was easy with her. Natural. You fell for her quickly? I asked, desperate to understand how he had seen our relationship. A small smile touched his lips. Pretty quickly, yes. She was different from anyone I'd dated before. Less concerned with career advancement or social status, more focused on finding joy in small moments. It was refreshing. But ultimately not what you wanted, I said, echoing his earlier assessment. His smile faded. It wasn't that simple. I loved being with Emmy. She made me see the world differently, made me slow down and appreciate things I'd always rushed past before. But as time went on, our different priorities became more apparent. Like what? I pressed, needing to hear his perspective. Kai leaned back, his expression thoughtful. I was focused on climbing the corporate ladder, building a specific kind of life. Emmy seemed content with her cafe job, her writing hobby, her small but close-knit circle of friends. I kept waiting for her to show ambition for something more, and she kept waiting for me to appreciate what was already there. The assessment was fair, I had to admit. I had been content with my life, while Kai had always been reaching for the next rung on his career ladder. Did you love her? I asked, the question I'd been afraid to ask for 8 months. Kai's eyes met mine, his expression serious. Yes, I did love her. The simple confirmation made my heart ache. Then why wasn't it enough? He sighed heavily. Because love isn't always enough, Mika. You know that. Sometimes people can love each other deeply and still not be right for each other long term. But how do you know? I challenged. How can you be so certain you and Emmy weren't meant to be together? Kai frowned, studying me with growing suspicion. Why are you asking me this? Why does it matter so much to you suddenly? I realized I'd pushed too far again, letting my own need for answers overshadow my role as Mika. I need to be sure, Kai. Before we tell Emmy about us, before we get married, I need to know there aren't any lingering feelings there. There aren't, he stated firmly, though something flickered in his eyes that made me doubt his conviction. What I had with Emmy was special, but it's in the past. What I have with you is my future. The words should have crushed my lingering hope, but instead, I found myself focusing on the hesitation in his voice, the way his gaze didn't quite meet mine as he spoke. I believe you, I lied, forcing a smile. Thank you for being honest with me. Kai seemed relieved that the interrogation was over. Of course, no secrets between us, right? The irony of his statement, given the massive secret I was keeping, wasn't lost on me. Right, no secrets. He leaned over and kissed me lightly, a gesture that still sent conflicting emotions cascading through me. I'm going to shower and change. Want to order in tonight? I'm too tired to cook. Sounds perfect, I agreed, grateful for the chance to be alone with my thoughts. As Kai disappeared into the bedroom, I sat motionless on the couch, replaying his words in my mind. He had loved me, had genuinely loved me, but he believed we wanted different things from life, that our relationship had an expiration date from the beginning. Was he right? Were our differences truly insurmountable? Or had we simply failed to communicate, to find compromises that would allow us both to fulfill our dreams while remaining together? These questions haunted me as the evening progressed. We ordered sushi, watched a movie, and maintained a semblance of normalcy. but beneath the surface, my mind was churning. That night, I once again insisted on sleeping on the couch, citing restlessness that might disturb his sleep. Kai looked concerned, but didn't argue, simply kissing my forehead before heading to bed alone. In the darkness of Mika's living room, I stared at the ceiling and confronted an uncomfortable truth. Despite 8 months of trying to move on, despite discovering Kai was engaged to my best friend, despite his clear statement that our relationship was firmly in the past, I was still in love with him, and I had no idea what to do about it. Morning came with no miraculous body swap, no magical resolution to my impossible situation. I was still Mika, still pretending, still trapped between my lingering feelings for Kai and my loyalty to my best friend. I checked my phone to find a text from Mika. Mika, any changes? Me, no, still you. You? Mika, still you. This is getting ridiculous. We need to try something else. Me, like what? Mika, not sure, but something. Meet at the cafe after your morning meeting? My afternoon is free. I agreed, then forced myself through the motions of being Mika for another morning. Thankfully, Kai had an early start and was gone before I emerged from the couch, sparing me the need to maintain my facade over breakfast. My morning meeting with a potential vendor went smoothly enough, though I found it increasingly difficult to care about flower arrangements and table settings for a wedding I was beginning to hope wouldn't happen, a thought that filled me with equal parts guilt and relief. By noon, I was seated in my usual corner at Moonbeam's cafe, waiting for Mika to arrive. The familiar environment brought a strange comfort, even though I was viewing it from the outside, rather than from my usual position behind the counter. Yui waved at me as she served customers, clearly assuming I was Mika stopping by to see her friend Emmy. The layers of deception were becoming exhausting to navigate. When Mika finally arrived, wearing an outfit I would never have chosen for myself, a floral dress that was far too feminine for my taste, I couldn't help but laugh at the incongruity. "What?" she asked defensively as she slid into the seat across from me. "Nothing," I said, still smiling. "Just, you look like you're playing dress-up in my body." She rolled her eyes. "Well, your wardrobe doesn't give me much to work with. Would it kill you to own something other than jeans and t-shirts?" "Says the woman who's currently making me wear heels every day," I retorted. Your feet are killing me." We shared a brief laugh, a moment of normalcy in our abnormal situation. "So," Mika said, sobering, "I've been thinking about our problem. What if the solution isn't just about learning lessons from each other's lives?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "What if it's specifically about Kai?" she suggested. "What if we switched because there's something unresolved between you two that needs to be addressed before I can marry him?" I hesitated, not wanting to admit how close this was to my own thinking. "Like what?" "Like the fact that you never got proper closure," Mika said gently. "And maybe he didn't either." My heart skipped a beat. "Did he say something to you? About me?" Mika looked uncomfortable. "Not directly, but he's been acting strange the past couple days, asking about you more than usual. Last night he even suggested we postpone telling you about our engagement until after the wedding." "What? Why?" I asked, surprised. "He said he was worried about how you'd take it, that it might be cruel to dump this on you right before the wedding when you couldn't do anything to stop it anyway." "Stop it," I repeated, confused. "Why would I try to stop your wedding?" Mika gave me a meaningful look. "Exactly my question. Unless he thinks you still have feelings for him. Or unless he has feelings for me," I said quietly, the possibility I'd been avoiding saying out loud. Mika was silent for a moment, staring into her coffee. "I've been thinking about that," she admitted finally. "About whether Kai is really over you, and I'm not sure he is." The statement hung between us, heavy with implications. "What makes you say that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed. "Little things. The way he talks about you sometimes, with this fondness that seems to go beyond just remembering an ex. How he kept putting off telling you about us. And yesterday, he called me by your name." "He what?" I gasped. "It was just a slip," Mika clarified quickly. "We were talking about you, and he got confused. But still, it happened." My mind raced with the possibilities. "So what are you saying? That Kai might still have feelings for me?" "I'm saying it's possible," Mika acknowledged. "And if that's true, then maybe that's why we switched bodies. Maybe you need to find out for sure, both of you, before this wedding happens." The suggestion left me reeling. Was Mika actually encouraging me to explore whether Kai still had feelings for me, 3 weeks before their wedding? "I don't understand," I said slowly. If you think Kai might still have feelings for me, why would you still want to marry him? Mika looked down at her hands, my hands, twisting nervously on the table. Because I love him, she said simply, and I want him to be happy. Even if that means... She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Even if that means not with you, I supplied gently. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. I'd rather know now than spend a lifetime wondering if he settled for me because his first choice wasn't available. The selflessness of her statement touched me deeply. Despite everything, the secrecy of their relationship, the pain of discovering it the way I had, Mika was still my best friend, still the person who knew me better than anyone. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked carefully. Mika took a deep breath. I think you should tell him the truth, about who you really are, about the body swap. He'll think I'm crazy, I protested. Maybe, she conceded. Or maybe he'll believe you. Either way, it might force both of you to confront whatever unresolved feelings are there. And if he does still have feelings for me? I asked, the question that had been haunting me. What then? He breaks your heart 3 weeks before your wedding? Better than breaking it after 10 years of marriage, Mika said with a sad smile. Better than all 3 of us living a lie. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. My hand in this bizarre reality. I can't do that to you, Mika. You're my best friend. I won't destroy your engagement on a hunch. Then what do we do? She asked. Because I can't keep pretending everything's normal when I'm in your body. You're in mine. And I'm increasingly convinced my fiancé might be in love with someone else. It was a fair question, and one I didn't have a good answer for. Let me try something less drastic first, I suggested. Let me talk to Kai again, push a little harder about his feelings for me, for Emmy. If there's really something there, maybe it will come out naturally. Mika nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. Okay, but Emmy, be careful. This isn't just about you and Kai anymore. It's about all 3 of us. I know, I assured her. I promise I won't do anything that would hurt you intentionally. With that shaky agreement, we parted ways once more, each returning to our borrowed lives, each carrying the weight of uncertain futures and complicated emotions. That evening, I returned to Mika's apartment with a plan. I would talk to Kai again, but this time I would push harder, dig deeper into his feelings about our past relationship. If there was something still there, some lingering attachment or unresolved emotion, I needed to know before proceeding. Kai was already home when I arrived, cooking dinner in the kitchen. The domestic scene made my heart twist painfully. This could have been our life together if things had gone differently. Hey, he greeted me with a smile. I'm making pasta. That okay? Sounds perfect, I replied, setting down my bag. Need any help? You could make the salad, he suggested, turning back to the stove. We worked side by side in comfortable silence for a while, the familiarity of the routine belying the strangeness of our situation. How many times had Kai and I cooked together like this during our relationship? And now, here we were again, except he thought I was someone else entirely. Kai, I said finally, gathering my courage. Can we talk? About Emmy again? He paused in his stirring, turning to look at me with a mixture of confusion and wariness. Again? I thought we covered everything last night. Not everything, I said, setting down the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables. There's something I need to ask you, and I need you to be completely honest. Concern flashed across his face. Okay, I took a deep breath. If things had been different, if the timing had been different, or if you and Emmy had tried harder to work through your differences, do you think you'd still be with her now? Kai's eyebrows shot up. What kind of question is that? An important one, I said steadily. Please, just answer it. He set down his spoon and turned fully toward me, his expression troubled. Mika, what's going on? Why are you so fixated on my relationship with Emmy suddenly? Because I need to know, I insisted. Before we get married, before we tell her about us, I need to know if there's any part of you that still wishes things had worked out differently with her. Kai was silent for a long moment, his gaze searching my face as if looking for clues to my unusual behavior. Finally, he sighed. It's a pointless question, he said. Things weren't different. They happened the way they happened. It's not pointless to me, I pressed. Please, Kai, just be honest. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I remembered well. Fine, yes. There are times I wonder what might have happened if the timing had been different, if we'd tried harder to work through our differences. Is that what you want to hear? The admission sent a jolt through me. So you do still think about her, about what might have been? Sometimes, he admitted reluctantly. But that doesn't mean I regret where I am now, with you. People can acknowledge paths not taken without wishing they'd chosen differently. I nodded, processing his words. Do you ever miss her? Specific things about her? Kai's expression shifted from frustration to confusion. Why are you doing this, Mika? Why are you pushing me to talk about what I miss about my ex-girlfriend 3 weeks before our wedding? Because I need to know if I'm marrying someone who's fully committed to me, I said, the words coming out more sharply than I intended. Or if there's a part of you that's still holding on to the past. Kai's expression softened slightly. Mika, I'm committed to you, to us. Yes, I have memories of my time with Emmy, some of them good. But that doesn't mean I wish I was still with her instead of you. I studied his face, looking for any sign that he wasn't being completely truthful. You're sure about that? Because lately you've seemed, I don't know, distracted when her name comes up, like there's something you're not saying. What I'm not saying, Kai said carefully, is that I'm worried about hurting her, that's all. She didn't deserve how things ended between us, and now we're going to hurt her again by telling her we're together. It weighs on me. There was truth in his words. I could see that. But was it the whole truth? Kai, I said, taking a deep breath, if Emmy walked through that door right now and told you she still loved you, that she never got over you, what would you do? He stared at me, shock evident on his face. What kind of question is that? A hypothetical one, I replied steadily. Please, just answer it. This is ridiculous, he muttered, turning back to the stove. I'm not entertaining this scenario. I moved to stand beside him, placing a hand on his arm. It's important to me, Kai. Please. He sighed, setting down the spoon again. Fine. If Emmy told me she still loved me, I would tell her I'm sorry, but I've moved on. I'm engaged to you. End of story. You wouldn't feel anything? I pushed. No regret, no what-ifs, no second thoughts? Kai's eyes narrowed. What do you want me to say, Mika? That I'd drop everything and run back to her? Is that what you're fishing for? I want the truth, I insisted. Whatever it is. The truth, he said, his voice tight with frustration, is that I don't know what I'd feel in that hypothetical moment because it hasn't happened. But what I do know is that I chose you. I asked you to marry me. That should tell you everything you need to know about my commitment. I nodded slowly, trying to read between the lines of his answer. The fact that he couldn't definitively say he'd feel nothing was telling, but his commitment to Mika also seemed genuine. What brought this on? Kai asked, his voice gentler now. These doubts, these questions about Emmy. It's not like you. I hesitated, unsure how to explain without revealing the impossible truth. I feel like there's something unresolved between you two, something that needs to be addressed before we can move forward completely. Kai studied me for a long moment. Maybe you're right, he said finally. Maybe there are things I never properly said to Emmy, explanations I owe her, but that doesn't change how I feel about you, or my commitment to our future together. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. Despite everything, there was a genuine goodness to Kai that I'd always loved, a fundamental decency that made him care about others' feelings, even when it would be easier not to. Thank you for being honest, I said quietly. We finished cooking dinner in relative silence, the conversation having shifted something subtle but significant between us. As we ate, I couldn't help wondering if Mika was right, if the only way to resolve this situation was to tell Kai the unbelievable truth about our body swap. After dinner, as Kai cleaned up the kitchen, I retreated to the bathroom, needing space to think. I stared at Mika's reflection in the mirror, contemplating my next move. What are you going to do? I whispered, to the unfamiliar face looking back at me. The answer came to me with sudden clarity. I needed to tell him, not just for the sake of potentially reversing the body swap, but because all three of us deserved honesty before any more damage was done. I emerged from the bathroom resolved. I found Kai in the living room scrolling through his phone. Kai, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen, no matter how crazy it sounds. He looked up, concern crossing his features. That sounds ominous. It's not ominous, just impossible, I said, sitting beside him on the couch. But I promise you it's the truth. Okay, he said slowly, setting down his phone. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. I'm not Mika. Kai blinked. What? I'm not Mika, I repeated. I'm Emmy. Somehow, 3 days ago, Mika and I switched bodies. I woke up in her body, and she woke up in mine. We don't know how it happened or how to switch back, but it's the truth. Kai stared at me for a long moment before laughing uncomfortably. Very funny, Mika. Is this some kind of weird test? It's not a test, and I'm not joking, I insisted. Think about it, Kai. Haven't you noticed how different I've been acting? How I suddenly don't remember things I should know, like our trip to Osaka, which never happened, by the way. How I've been asking all these questions about Emmy? The laughter died on his lips as he studied me more carefully. This is insane. You expect me to believe you're Emmy trapped in Mika's body? People don't just swap bodies, Mika. That only happens in movies. I know it sounds impossible, I acknowledged, but it's happening. It's real. Ask me something only Emmy would know. Something about our relationship that you never told Mika. Kai looked skeptical, but seemed to consider the challenge. Fine. Where was our first kiss? On the Sumida River ferry, I answered without hesitation. It was raining lightly, and you gave me your jacket. We were standing at the railing, and you said the lights of the city reflected in the water reminded you of stars fallen to earth. Kai's face paled slightly. I never told Mika that. Because it was our moment, I said softly. Our memory. This is crazy, he muttered, standing up and pacing the room. You can't seriously expect me to believe this body-swapping nonsense. Mika probably told you about the ferry. Or you guessed. The night we broke up, I continued, pressing my advantage. You said something to me that I never told anyone, not even Mika. You said, in another life, where timing and circumstance were kinder, we would have been perfect together. Kai stopped pacing, his back to me. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the struggle as he tried to process what I was saying. This isn't possible, he said, his voice strained. I know, I agreed, but it's happening anyway. He turned to face me, his expression a mix of confusion, disbelief, and something else I couldn't quite identify. Prove it. Tell me something else. Something no one but Emmy could possibly know. I thought for a moment. The scar on your right shoulder. You told everyone it was from a childhood bike accident, but you actually got it from falling out of a tree when you were trying to rescue your neighbor's cat. Kai's eyes widened. I never told anyone that except me. I finished for him, because you said it was embarrassing to admit you were trying to be a hero for a cat. He sank back onto the couch, staring at me with new eyes. Emmy? He whispered, the word half question, half recognition. Yes, I confirmed, relief washing over me at being seen, truly seen, for the first time in days. But how? Why? He asked, still looking shell-shocked. We don't know, I admitted. It just happened 3 days ago. We've been trying to figure out how to switch back ever since. So Mika is in my body, I confirmed. Working my shifts at the cafe, living my life. Kai ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. This is insane, completely insane. Trust me, I know, I said with a weak laugh. Try living it. So all these questions about my feelings for you, I mean for Emmy, they weren't just Mika being insecure. They were you trying to understand where we stand, I finished for him. Yes. Kai stood again, unable to sit still as he processed this revelation. I don't know what to say, what to think. This is impossible, I supplied. I know. Why tell me now? He asked suddenly. Why not just keep pretending until you switched back? I hesitated, then decided to be completely honest. Because Mika thinks the reason we switched might be connected to unresolved feelings between you and me. That we need to address them before we can switch back, and before you two get married. Kai's eyes widened at this. Mika said that? She thinks I have unresolved feelings for you? She noticed things, I said carefully. The way you talk about me, how you've been reluctant to tell me about your engagement. She thought there might be something still there. And is there? Kai asked quietly. On your side, I mean. I swallowed hard, knowing this was the moment of truth. Yes, I admitted. I never fully got over you, Kai. Finding out you were engaged to my best friend was devastating. He closed his eyes briefly, as if pained by my confession. I never wanted to hurt you, Emmy. Never. I know, I said gently, but it happened anyway. Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words and complicated emotions. So what now? Kai finally asked. Where do we go from here? I don't know, I admitted, but I think we need to be honest, with ourselves and with each other. Do you still have feelings for me, Kai? Any at all? He looked away, conflict evident in his expression. It's not that simple. It is, I insisted. Either you do or you don't. I care about you. he said carefully. I always will. There's a part of me that wonders what might have been if circumstances had been different. That's not what I asked, I pressed gently. Do you still have feelings for me? Romantic feelings? Kai met my gaze, his eyes troubled. I don't know, Emmy. That's the honest truth. When I thought you were gone from my life for good, it was easier to move forward. But seeing you again, even in Mika's body, talking to you, being reminded of what we had, it's confusing things I thought were settled. It wasn't the declaration of love I might have secretly hoped for, but it was honest, and it opened a door I had thought permanently closed. We need to talk to Mika, I said decisively. All three of us need to figure this out together. Kai nodded, looking both relieved and terrified at the prospect. You're right. But Emmy, whatever happens, someone is going to get hurt. There's no way around that. I know, I acknowledged sadly. But continuing as we were, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, that would have hurt all of us eventually. We agreed to meet with Mika the following day, to lay everything on the table and figure out our next steps together. As I settled onto the couch for another night, refusing Kai's offer to take it instead, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. The truth was out, at least partially, but what would happen next was still a mystery. I drifted off to sleep, wondering if I would wake up in my own body, and what that would mean for all three of us if I did. Morning came with a familiar ceiling, Mika's ceiling, not mine. I was still in her body, still caught in this bizarre situation, but something felt different, lighter somehow. Perhaps it was simply the relief of no longer carrying the secret alone. Kai was already awake, making coffee in the kitchen. He looked up when I emerged from the living room, his expression a complex mix of emotions. You're still, he gestured vaguely. Mika? Physically, yes, I confirmed. No change overnight. He nodded, handing me a cup of coffee made exactly the way I liked it. Not how Mika took hers. A small acknowledgement that he believed me, that he saw me now. I texted Mika. He shook his head, confused by his own words. I texted your phone. Asked if we could all meet this morning. You, said yes. 9 o'clock at Moonbeams. Good, I said, sipping the coffee gratefully. Thank you for believing me, Kai. I know how crazy it sounds. I'm not sure I fully believe it yet, he admitted. But too many things make sense this way. Your behavior, your questions, the things you know that Mika couldn't possibly know. We got ready in relative silence, each lost in our own thoughts about the coming conversation. The trip to the cafe felt like the longest journey of my life, every step bringing us closer to a confrontation that would change all our lives irrevocably. Mika was already there when we arrived, seated at our usual corner table. Seeing my own body from the outside was still jarring, but I was getting used to the strange sensation. Hey, she said cautiously as we approached. So, you told him? I nodded, sliding into the seat across from her. Last night, he knows everything. Kai sat beside me, looking uncomfortable as he glanced between us. This is the weirdest conversation I've ever had, he muttered. Despite the tension, I couldn't help a small laugh. Try living it. So you believe us? Mika asked Kai directly. About the body swap? He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know what to believe, but I know something impossible is happening, and this explanation fits the evidence better than any other. Good enough, Mika nodded. So now what? Did you two talk about? She trailed off, leaving the question unfinished but clear. We started to, I acknowledged, but we agreed we needed to talk all together. About what exactly? Kai asked, looking between us. About how to switch you back? About that, Mika confirmed, and about your feelings, for both of us. Kai's posture stiffened. I don't think this is the place for that conversation. Maybe not, I agreed, noting the curious glances we were already attracting from other customers. But we need to have it somewhere, soon. My apartment, Mika suggested. Well, Emmy's apartment. This afternoon, I can take a long lunch break. We agreed on the time, then spent the next few minutes in awkward silence, no one quite sure what to say next. This is so strange, Kai finally said, looking between us. I keep having to remind myself who is who. It's been that way for us for 3 days, I pointed out. How did you manage the engagement dinner with my parents? Mika asked suddenly. My mother didn't suspect anything? She thought I was acting strangely, but she attributed it to wedding stress, I explained. Your father was easier to fool. He always is, Mika agreed with a small smile. He lives in his own world half the time. The conversation drifted to the practical challenges we'd each faced living in each other's bodies. bringing moments of unexpected humor that briefly lightened the mood. But the underlying tension remained, the knowledge that soon we would have to address the complicated emotions entangled between the three of us. We parted ways with promises to meet at my apartment at noon, as Kai and I walked back toward Mika's office building, where he'd drop me off before heading to his own work. A heavy silence fell between us. "Are you okay?" I finally asked. He laughed, though there was little humor in it. "My fiancée and her best friend have switched bodies, and I've just found out that the woman I'm about to marry might not be the woman I'm supposed to be with." "Okay" isn't exactly how I'd describe my current state. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I never wanted to complicate your life like this." Kai stopped walking, turning to face me. "Don't apologize. None of this is your fault. And if there's one positive in this mess, it's that it's forcing us all to be honest about things we've been avoiding." I nodded, touched by his perspective. "Still, I know this can't be easy for you." "It's not," he acknowledged. "But I keep thinking, what if this hadn't happened? What if Mika and I had gotten married, had built a life together, all while I still had these unresolved feelings for you? Wouldn't that have been worse in the long run?" His words gave me hope that perhaps, despite everything, something good might come from this impossible situation. "I'll see you at noon," I said as we reached Mika's office building. Kai nodded, hesitating for a moment before leaning down to place a gentle kiss on my cheek. "See you then." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of anticipation and anxiety. I went through the motions of Mika's job, but my mind was firmly fixed on the coming conversation. By the time I arrived at my own apartment, strange to be knocking on my own door, my nerves were stretched to the breaking point. Mika let me in, looking equally tense. "Kai's not here yet," she said, gesturing me inside. It was surreal to see my apartment through different eyes, to be a visitor in my own space. Mika had kept it tidy, though I noticed she'd rearranged a few things to her liking. "So," she said once we were seated at my small kitchen table, "this is it, the moment of truth." I nodded, unable to find adequate words for the situation. "Before Kai gets here," Mika continued, "I need to know something. If you had the chance to be with him again, if that's what he wanted, would you take it? Even knowing it would hurt me?" The directness of her question caught me off guard, but I owed her honesty. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'd like to say I'd put our friendship first no matter what, but the truth is, I still love him, Mika. I never stopped." She nodded, pain evident in her expression despite her apparent acceptance. "I thought so. I can see it every time you talk about him. But that doesn't mean I'd act on it," I added quickly. "You're my best friend. I value that more than almost anything." "Almost," she repeated, noting the qualification. "But not more than Kai." Before I could respond, a knock at the door signaled Kai's arrival. Mika rose to answer it, leaving me with the weight of her observation. Kai entered, looking as tense as we felt. He greeted us both awkwardly, clearly still struggling with the knowledge of who was who. "So," he said as we all sat around my small kitchen table, "where do we start this impossible conversation?" "With honesty," Mika suggested. "Complete honesty from all of us." Kai and I nodded in agreement. "I'll go first," Mika offered. "Kai, I love you. I want to marry you. But I need to know that you're marrying me because I'm who you want, not because I was available when Emmy wasn't." Kai winced at her bluntness but nodded. "Fair enough." "Emmy," Mika continued, turning to me, "you're my best friend, and I betrayed your trust by dating Kai behind your back. I'm truly sorry for that, but I also need to know if you'd try to take him back if given the chance." I swallowed hard. "I already told you, I still have feelings for him. Strong feelings, but I would never intentionally hurt you, Mika." "And yet here we are," she said softly. "My turn, I guess," Kai said, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Mika, what we have is real. I didn't choose you as a consolation prize or a second choice, but," he hesitated, glancing at me, "but I can't deny that there are unresolved feelings for Emmy that I thought were in the past. This situation has forced me to confront that." "And what exactly are those feelings?" Mika pressed. "Nostalgia, regret, or something more?" Kai took a deep breath. "I don't know," he said honestly. "When Emmy and I broke up, it was because I believed we wanted fundamentally different things from life. That hasn't changed. But the connection between us, the feelings, they're still there, at least on some level." "So what are you saying?" I asked, my heart racing. "That you have feelings for both of us?" "Yes," Kai admitted, the simple word landing like a stone between us. "And I know that's not fair to either of you. It's not what you deserve. No, it's not, Mika agreed, pain evident in her voice despite her calm demeanor. So where does that leave us? The wedding is in 3 weeks, and you're sitting here telling us you have feelings for both of us. Kai looked lost. I don't know. I only know that I can't go through with the wedding feeling this way. It wouldn't be fair to you, Mika. The words hung in the air, final and devastating. Mika closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the blow. I think we need to postpone the wedding, she said finally. At minimum, until we figure this out, all of it. The body swap, your feelings, everything. Kai nodded, looking both relieved and pained by her decision. I'm so sorry, Mika. I never meant for any of this to happen. None of us did, she replied. But here we are. Silence fell over the table, each of us lost in our own thoughts about what this meant for our futures. So what now? I finally asked. We've been honest, laid everything on the table. Do we just wait to see if we switch back? I don't think it's that simple, Mika said thoughtfully. There's something we're still missing, some lesson we haven't fully learned, or some truth we haven't fully faced. Like what? Kai asked. Mika looked between us. Like the fact that maybe none of this would have happened if we'd all been honest from the beginning, if I had told Emmy about us right away, if you had been honest about your lingering feelings for her, if Emmy had admitted she never got over you. Her words hit home. The body swap, as impossible as it was, had forced us to confront truths we'd all been avoiding. But was that enough? We continued talking for hours, going over every aspect of our tangled emotions, our shared history, the choices that had led us to this point. There were tears, recriminations, apologies, moments of unexpected laughter, and profound sadness. By late afternoon, we were emotionally exhausted but somehow lighter, as if the weight of secrets had been lifted even as new complications arose. I should go, Kai finally said, standing up. I need time to think. We all do. We agreed to take a few days to reflect on everything, to figure out what we truly wanted. Mika decided to stay in my apartment rather than return to hers with Kai, a practical choice given our current bodies but also a symbolic one. As Kai prepared to leave, he paused at the door, looking between us with an expression of profound confusion and concern. Whatever happens, he said quietly, I never meant to hurt either of you. Please believe that. After he left, Mika and I sat in silence, the weight of the day's revelations settling around us. So, she finally said, the wedding is postponed. My fiancé has admitted he still has feelings for you, and we're still in each other's bodies. This has to be the strangest day of my life. Despite everything, I laughed. Mine, too. Do you think we'll ever switch back? She asked, looking down at my hands, her hands temporarily. I hope so, I said honestly. As interesting as it's been seeing life from your perspective, I miss being me. I miss being me, too, she admitted with a small smile. We stayed up late talking, our conversation shifting from the heavy emotions of the day to lighter reminiscences about our friendship, the good times we'd shared, the ways we'd supported each other through various life challenges. Remember when we first met? Mika asked, a smile playing on her lips. In Professor Tanaka's literature class? You spilled coffee all over my designer jacket and looked like you wanted to die of embarrassment. I groaned at the memory. And you told me not to worry about it, that the jacket was so last season anyway. I couldn't tell if you were being genuinely nice or condescendingly forgiving. A bit of both, probably, Mika admitted with a laugh. I was much more concerned with appearances back then. And I was a complete mess, I added. It's a wonder we ever became friends. But we did, Mika said, her expression softening. And despite everything, despite this impossible situation with Kai, I wouldn't trade our friendship for anything. Her words touched me deeply. Neither would I assured her. Whatever happens with Kai, whatever happens with our bodies, you'll always be my best friend. We fell asleep in my apartment, Mika in my bed and me on the couch. Our futures uncertain, but our friendship somehow stronger for having weathered this impossible storm together. I awoke the next morning to sunlight streaming through my living room window, momentarily disoriented. Something felt different. As consciousness fully returned, I realized what it was. The ceiling I was staring at was my own. Not Mika's luxury apartment, but my modest studio. With a jolt of excitement, I sat up and looked down at my hands with their short, practical nails and familiar calluses from years of making coffee. Mika, I called out, my real voice, cracking with emotion. Mika, wake up! A startled sound came from my bedroom, followed by Mika appearing in the doorway, her eyes wide as she looked down at herself. "We switched back," she whispered, looking as stunned as I felt. "We're ourselves again." We stared at each other in amazement, then broke into relieved laughter, the tension of the past days finally releasing. "But how? Why now?" I wondered aloud. Mika considered the question. "Maybe because we finally faced the truth, all of us. No more secrets, no more denial, just honesty, painful as it was." Her theory made sense. The body swap had forced us to confront truths we'd all been avoiding. Mika's secret relationship with Kai, my lingering feelings for him, his unresolved emotions for me. "So what happens now?" I asked, the relief of returning to my own body tempered by the uncertainty of our situation with Kai. Mika sighed, sitting beside me on the couch. "I don't know. The wedding is postponed. My fiancé is confused about his feelings, and my best friend is still in love with him." Put like that, our situation sounded impossible, yet somehow, being back in our own bodies made it seem more manageable. "Whatever happens," I said, taking her hand, "we face it together, as friends. That's the one certainty in all of this." Mika squeezed my hand in return. "Together," she agreed. We both knew there were difficult conversations ahead, painful decisions to be made. Kai would have to choose, or perhaps he would decide he needed time alone to sort through his feelings. The wedding might be postponed indefinitely, or it might proceed once hearts and minds were clear. But in that moment, sitting together in my small apartment, back in our own bodies, and secure in our friendship, the future, however uncertain, seemed like something we could face. Because sometimes the most impossible situations lead us to the most important truths about ourselves, about the people we love, and about what truly matters when everything else is stripped away. And that, perhaps, was the real lesson behind our impossible swap.